Why do you think most people, they work really, really hard in whatever country they are, still they remain poor?
It's a great question. I think the frame to apply is, what does your work solve? Right? If I'm a surgeon that is extraordinary doing bypass surgery, I work for a few hours and I make a lot of money. Because the problem I solve is almost life and death,
Yeah.
with a very high chance of somebody dying. But let's say I did some work which does not solve a large problem, or in fact, बहुत जन कर सकते हैं. Then it's unlikely to create more wealth. So, what does it solve? And what do people value at? For example, let's say both of us get together and build a company that's going to solve बच्चों की हाइट बढ़ जाएगी 3-4 इंच in a healthy manner. We found a technology or a medication or some Ayurvedic medication जिससे ये होता है. We'll become very wealthy.
Very, very wealthy.
Because it's a problem that people care a lot about. But let's say we build something that is, by the way, we'll become very wealthy, but it's a very hard problem. Matlab, sometimes we'll have to give 15-20 years with no chance of success
To solve that problem.
to solve this problem, and therefore it will not achieve anything. But let's say you are doing a lot of hard work and I don't know, providing XYZ service that बहुत जन करते हैं, and you could be easily replaced. Nobody cares कि इससे करो कि उससे करो, फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Right? You will not be able to make more money. ऐसा नहीं कि hours कम हो रहा है. Right? And therefore, it's about what comes out of that achievement. For example, software engineering was very hard to learn and made a lot of money. And a lot of people did software engineering because of that. But let's say if AI comes around and makes the top software engineer 10x more productive, which means they don't need as many people, that profession may not make the same amount of money. But for some people, it makes them crazy amount of money. Same thing for doctors. Some doctors will become 10x using AI. Right? So we have to think that way. If hard work resulted in stuff, right? For example, let's talk about your podcast, right? A lot of people are doing it.
Exactly.
In fact, I firmly believe there are more people building podcasts than listening to podcasts.
It's a joke for a long time, yeah.
But I do believe that, and because it almost feels like a good status thing to do, right? But what you do to get you to the top 50 in the world is very different, right? Nobody knows exactly what are the things that you do. And sometimes you can't even explain. If you ever started a course on how to build successful podcasts, I can tell you it will not be successful. Because you can't even explain many things that you've internalized in yourself. For example, I invest in startups. I write a book on how to pick good ideas to invest in. I will not be able to explain it.
Why?
It's so internalized that you don't even know what the lessons are.
So how can somebody build this? How can they learn?
Constant iteration. Think of yourself as an app. ठीक है? If you are an app, apps have two things: features and bugs. You have to enhance the features. क्या लोगों को ये अच्छा लगता है तो इसको अच्छा और अच्छा करता है. ये चलता नहीं है, इसको फिक्स करता है, निकाल देते हैं बग्स को और रिलीज करता है वापस. जब रिलीज करोगे आप, वापस कोई नए फीचर्स आएंगे, कुछ नए बग्स आएंगे. आपने लिस्ट बनाया, उसको फिक्स किया. जो सक्सेसफुल होते हैं उनका साइकिल ऑफ रिलीजिंग द एप्स इज मच फास्टर.
But isn't it driven out of then public validation?
Not really. It's about truth seeking on what is causing what.
How do you differentiate between truth seeking and validation? Because let's say you are an app.
For example, if you ask people, do you want to be healthy? Survey में सबका आंसर आएगा 100 on 100.
Yes.
Are you doing something about being healthy? उसमें बोलेंगे 100 on 100. Actually देखोगे कोई कुछ नहीं कर रहा है. So you have to look at data and instincts. Because so many health startups fail because कोई motivation ही नहीं है लोगों का. See, wealth happens when you take something that people are truly motivated by and make it easy to do. ठीक है? Wealth gets destroyed when you keep making something easy that nobody cares about. And that's the thing.
So most people remain poor because they are A, not working on making themselves irreplaceable, and B, they are not creating something so valuable which a lot of people are motivated to get easily.
Or will pay a lot for. How much would you pay for a health situation of your family member improving versus couriering from Bombay to Bangalore? So there's a range.
Huge difference.
There's a range. Think about human motivation as some Gangotri. ठीक है? At the core, जहाँ से शुरू होती है Gangotri, it's basically simple. We want health, prosperity, status for ourselves and our family members. All the things we do can be answered in this.
Yeah.
ठीक है? उसके बाद वो रिवर आगे बढ़ते बढ़ते कुछ और बनती है और बनती है और बनती है और बनती है, राइट? एंड बिजनेसेस आर नथिंग बट बिल्डिंग डैम्स ऑन ईच ऑफ दी streams. Sometimes the stream is small, sometimes the river is bigger, sometimes you're building at Gangotri. For example, when I told you about the height thing, तो गंगोत्री पे डैम लगा दिया.
हाँ.
Straight.
Big problem. Yeah.
तो बहुत पैसा बनेगा.
But कुछ लोग रेगुलर काम करके जो सब लोग कर रहे हैं वहां पे भी जीत जाते हैं and they end up making shit tons of money.
Not necessarily. They might find a very differentiated thing to do within that, right? For example, nobody's caring about that sector. Let's say you are, I don't know, becoming extraordinary building avocado. And nobody has figured it out yet. And you are realizing it's a big trend. आपने बनाना शुरू कर दिया and you become the 80% market shareholder of avocado. So it became big. It's a regular avocado grow कर रहा है. क्या है इसमें? मतलब खेती कर रहा है. But खेती of a product that people are willing to pay higher price for.
In a way which makes you more money.
Correct.
So it boils down to just what's your differentiator.
Or what do people value? What do people value? And are they valuing it at that point of time or is it likely to sustain? For example, let's say you do something that is a hype. It'll die away.
And how do you identify what's hype and what's something that's going to stay forever?
Because what are people doing it for temporarily demonstrating status or something that people will truly value? For example, we talked about Labubu as like a temporary way of showing that I am part of a unique status tribe. Or height, which is a long-term sustainable thing, right? Health.
But again, height is also status.
Not necessarily. It's going to be long-term. This will not be a long-term thing because something else will become a trend. Height will not replace in the trend.
No, I get that. But what I mean, the ultimate emotion which is getting solved is status.
Ultimately, everything is either of those three things I told you, right? It's some version of social status, prosperity, and personal well-being, which is health.
So what's going to give you long-term of this or short-term of this?
Short-term of this. That's the way to think about it. But there are nuances to that. For example, let's say I built a lamp company, right? It gives a status in some ways, but it makes me feel that I'm a unique person. Let's say I have a nice coaster over here, it feels different. So लोग बोलेंगे अरे क्या बढ़िया आदमी है, मतलब क्या taste है इसका, whatever. But with enough people will care about it, right? But if I was doing a bypass specialization, less people will care about it because everybody is going through that.
Yeah.
So it's about multiplying the utility value of something and the audience size and their net worth to be able to afford it.
But okay, so this is basic that people need to understand. Right? Another basic is a lot of people want to get rich. A lot of people also admire and worship people with money, but they secretly pray also for their downfall. Right?
Not everywhere.
Most I'm talking about, let's say, a country like ours, because you've also, again, I think you've tweeted somewhere कि इंडिया में लोगों को भगवान बनाना बहुत अच्छा लगता है, फिर वो भगवान बना के विसर्जन करना भी उन्हें बहुत अच्छा लगता है, right? So people are somewhere, they worship rich people, yet they're praying for the downfall, or they enjoy the downfall. Why?
So the thing is, there are two ways to achieve status, right? Either I get ahead of someone, or I wait for them to come to my level. It's very simple, right? So when we see some people who look to be extraordinary to become ordinary like us, it just gives us a sense of relief. कि same ही है, right? For example, we like to know gossip about their personal life so that we feel करे ये तो अपने जैसा ही है. In fact, a lot of successful people also demonstrate कि मैं आपके जैसा ही हूँ, so that you feel like अरे यार तो अपने जैसा ही है.
But why do they wait for them to fall, or like at least find faults?
It's not about that. It's just that you have to find something that gives you relief in some ways, right? कि you feel कि यार they are not special, and it's okay. See, what I'm saying is that people who are trying to be successful don't care about these things, right? If somebody has done something and achieved something, and even if they become ultimate failures, the lessons are still invaluable. So are you interested in lessons or not? Right? If you're interested only in their final status, then we are less likely to be interested in the lessons of that. And therefore,
it's the case in most of the cases.
Yeah, but we can shape that. For example, I've often mentioned that we built no successful documentaries or movies about successful achievers on what their journey was, especially entrepreneurs, right? But we have movie about every scamster, gangster, all of that, because it's exciting. Can we just make it more powerful by just demonstrating these stories, right? For example, you'll feel a lot more content about Western entrepreneurs. You will see story about everyone.
Yeah.
And we read their autobiographies, all of that. But यहाँ पे नहीं है. And that often tells me that that ये इसलिए नहीं, because शायद इसकी need अभी तक नहीं है शायद. We might change that, right? Maybe someone like you will produce a movie and or make a documentary series, and you might identify a new customer need that the current world is not identifying, and create that. Because if that starts happening, we will automatically get really changing on what we care about, right? We will care less about, oh, this guy up, down, whatever. We'll just care about, yeah, this is a good lesson. For example, if you read a story about how Spotify founder convinced music labels to join forces, it's a great lesson. अभी Spotify का क्या हुआ, successful हुआ, नहीं successful हुआ, डूब गया company, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? The lesson was, how did they solve a difficult problem?
यहाँ वो नहीं होता है, इतना ज़्यादा चलता नहीं है तो
because we are not, we are more interested in content than being successful, no? So stories are more interesting.
Why do you think it's like that?
Because
successful से ज़्यादा gossip और entertainment.
Yeah, because how are we respected in our community? By being more interesting sometimes.
Going back to the concept.
Yeah, but we often call successful people sadu aadmi hai ye. ये पूरा टाइम काम, इसको हटाओ. And somebody who comes and say, oh, I went on a date, or ये हो गया, वो हो गया. I often wonder, by the way, sometimes that who are in perpetual new relationships often are trying to be interesting sometimes. Because it's new content for their friends.
थैंक यू सो मच ये क्लिप एंड तक देखने के लिए. अगर आपको और भी ऐसी क्लिप्स देखनी है तो राज शमानी क्लिप्स चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर लीजिए.